We're saying unmistakably and in unison that it's time to roll the credits on the politics of chaos and the politics of cruelty. Now is time for going far and going together. Now is the time for decency, for facts, for trust, and now is the time for truth. Now is time for leaders to lead. And to those agents of anger determined to divide us instead of unite us, it's time to pack it up and for you to pack it in. This, in every way, shape, or form, is California's moment. And to those who wonder whether polarization is permanent, who think today's big dreams are tomorrow's broken promises, who question whether a 40 million person melting pot of different faiths, different families and futures can live and prosper together.
Several homes now destroyed, at least 4,000 acres scorched.
California is your answer.
I felt a lot of promise back then, but unfortunately, Gavin, you didn't live up to any of that. Welcome to the Syndicate X Library of Leadership and Life. Today we're going to talk about the subject of politics and leadership. We're going to do a reaction video to the congressman from the 3rd District here in California, Kevin Kiley. He is talking about Gavin Newsom Trump-proofing the state before the incoming president takes office. Just full disclosure, I have a lot of thoughts about Gavin Newsom. So I've lived here in the state of California for 25 years. I was very optimistic about Gavin Newsom, supported him, have mutual friends, thought that we had a lot in common in the sense that, you know, he was kind of raised by a single mom. He had dyslexia. And even though I don't have dyslexia, he was self-made. He's an entrepreneur, so he owns businesses or percentages in businesses. It's hard to tell if he actually is an operator or just an investor. But I, thought that he was a breath of fresh air at the time. So this is back in 2018. Now we sit here all these years later, and I can't imagine a bigger failure for a state with so much potential, the 5th largest economy in the world, and so much talent, like the talent here, the weather, everything. And it just has, it's been not only squandered, it's almost been like pushed down the hill in a sense. It's a terrible state of affairs. When I was writing my book, I Am Leader, I really got momentum during COVID. In the way that Gavin handled COVID, it was a motivator for me. And I actually had a picture of Gavin up when I was working on the book, just like thinking like, man, if he knew this stuff, he could be such a better leader, because he's not a great leader. He's actually a terrible leader. But there's a few things that he could do that would change his trajectory, because he's very charismatic, he's smart, and he's driven. I think he works hard. He's just missing a couple things. And so I was very intentional in my book, hoping that if somebody like Gavin read it, it would give them the roadmap to succeed. And I'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of the video, of what those specific things were that I think could save his career. And I think as we sit here right now, he's termed out. So he's, he has a little time left on the clock. He doesn't seem to be doing anything of substance with that time to help the state of California. I think he's resolved to the fact that he's messed it up and his political career probably is over. I don't know who would ever vote for him for something else again. But let's kind of go through this and see what Kevin has to say here. But just one other thing really quick is if you look in Gavin's eyes recently, you can really tell that even he doesn't believe what he's saying. I'll give you just an example. So if everybody remembers the Biden-Trump debate and how immediately after that debate, everybody was calling for Biden to step down. And if you didn't see the debate, I'll just summarize it with this quick little clip here. This is basically how it went.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Yeah, just a total catastrophe. But immediately after that, Gavin goes on TV and tries to tell us, kind of like he always does, that what we're seeing isn't real. And it's almost gaslighting. And he used to be better at it. He's not as good as he was. And you can tell in his eyes he doesn't believe it anymore. Just look how uncomfortable he is going, okay, I'm the guy from the Democratic Party that's got to sit up here and do this. But even for him, it's got to be a huge compromise.
My colleague Alex Wagner is standing by right now with California Governor Biden surrogate Gavin Newsom. Alex, I cannot wait for this conversation.
Well, neither can I. You guys can't see it, but
look at how shifty he is.
They're like all of Trump's shortlist VP nominees are walking around on the ground. Nobody wants to talk to them. It was like human piranhas descending on the governor after the end of this debate. Governor, let me just,
you know why everybody wanted to talk to him? Because I think a lot of us thought he was going to do the right thing there and say, hey, Biden should step down and the Democratic Party should pick a new nominee and I should be in that running. And I think I could be president. Like, that would have been the thing I would have done there, is I would have told the truth and I would have, raised my hand and said, I'm the one to fix this. Right? But he doesn't that's not what he does. Here we go.
What was your reaction to what we saw on screen?
Well, not on the substance. He won the debate. I'm old school. I'm old-fashioned.
Won the debate. He's old school. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what that means. I don't know what old school means in that sense, but that's what we got. So let's see what Congressman Kiley here has to say about us Trump-proofing the state of California. Recently also, San Diego has become a super sanctuary city, which doesn't even make sense, but that's what's going on.
Mr. Speaker, this last week, California Governor Gavin Newsom called a special emergency session of the legislature for the purpose of, quote, Trump-proofing California, or protecting California values. Now, it's a question of whether this session is even, there's a question of whether this session is even legal, given that the state constitution allows for a special session to be called under extraordinary circumstances. And you might wonder whether the result of a duly conducted presidential election could truly constitute an extraordinary circumstance. More than that, it is clearly a farce, as despite the governor's claims that this is an emergency situation, it was such an emergency that they gavelled in for about an hour and then went home for a month without passing any legislation.
It's good that they get together and talk, because things aren't going well for them. And it is shocking that I think they believe their own narrative, the Democrats here in California. And it's also probably a little scary because it's so corrupt with this one-party system. There's no challenge whatsoever. That's another thing for Gavin, is you would think that a governor that had, a one-party system would be able to get so much stuff done very quickly. And he gets a lot of stuff done, but the stuff that he's getting done isn't the stuff that actually matters to the state to make it a better place to live or to feed the economy. It's exactly the opposite, which surprises me, because when he was the mayor of San Francisco, he did a pretty good job of getting companies to come there, of, making things better. It was better than when he got it, in a sense. Not since my father left when I was 2 months old have I had such a disappointing relationship in somebody.
But we should just examine the governor's claim that we need to protect California values, protect the status quo in California against any forces of reform that may be coming from Washington, D.C.
Let me tell you what the values are in the state of California as it regards to Gavin Newsom is create total chaos, keep everybody confused, gaslight them, and keep their self-esteem as low as you possibly can. So they only look to you, the cult, the Democratic Party, for any sort of guidance, handouts, whatever it is. Have an enemy, create this fictional enemy and divide everybody. And if people don't agree with your point of view, call them right-wing extremists. It really, really hurt my feelings when he was being recalled because I voted to recall him. And he said that the people voting to recall him are right-wing extremists. I'm not a right-wing anything. And I'm certainly not an extremist. I'm, if anything, I'm in the middle and I'm for people. I'm for finding common ground with everybody and not polarizing this chaos to the point that people's self-esteem is so low that they're acting out, and the behavior of these extreme Democrats here is it's so culty. It's like you're in or you're out. You can't talk about issues because all the issues are thrown into one basket. And if you don't agree with one single thing that they say, then you're an extremist and you're racist, you're this and that. It's insane, the self-esteem in this state from the crime, the education, all of it.
What exactly is the governor aiming to protect? Is it California's national lead when it comes to homelessness? The fact that we have half the unsheltered homeless in the entire country?
I get Gavin's point sometimes on this is the state of California is a beautiful place. And if you were homeless, this is probably where you would want to come because of the weather, but also because we allow people to do whatever they want. You can set up a tent on a sidewalk in front of a building and literally steal their power and water. It doesn't matter. You can go unchecked completely with that. The thing that does confuse me about Gavin and the homeless is that we've spent $24 billion and it's not any better. In fact, it's worse. It's not any better. I don't know how you spend $24 billion and don't fix something. In fact, I would contend that we could fix the homeless problem here for way less than that, like under $1 billion. I know just where we are here in this area of Los Angeles, if you gave my team and I, do you think we can do it for $1 million? For $1 million bucks, we could fix the homeless around here in just this area. So $24 billion. And it feels like, I don't know, but it feels like they're really worried that Republicans are going to start to get some sort of foothold here, and they're going to investigate how they spent that money, and we're going to find a lot of fraud. We're going to find that they're spending that money on their friends and things that have nothing to do with the homeless. Just an assumption on my part, but there's no way that we have legitimately spent $24 billion and this is the outcome. That's impossible. Completely. $24 billion is so much money. So much money.
Is that what Governor Newsom is aiming to protect? Is it our highest in the nation poverty rate? Is he looking to protect our lead when it comes to poverty? Or is it when it comes to retail crime, does he want to maintain the #1 record for the worst retail crime in the country? Or the #1 spot when it comes to
Let's talk about crime a little bit. So we pay a tremendous amount in taxes. So we pay over 50% in taxes. We have the highest taxes in the country. And on top of the taxes, there's a bunch of hidden things that you don't really think about or talk about. But one is you have to have security here. So the crime is so bad that you have to have security. A lot of people have bodyguards, but you have to have people watch your buildings. Armed guards aren't cheap to have. And the reason why you have to do that is because the police don't come when you call. The morale of the police department here, the budgets that they've been giving and the mismanage of it is so bad. And I'm not kidding that when you call the police, they don't come. So we have literally called the police and they do not come, which is insane. We're paying the most in taxes and the police don't come. We've had 3 employees here at the office have their cars stolen. And if you've ever had your car stolen, it is a traumatic event. Like literally somebody is saying like, you work really hard and you pay for that thing, and then I'm just going to take it. And there's no consequences whatsoever for that here. But when your car is stolen, you would think that you would call the police and they would come out and do an investigation and try to find your car. They don't come out. You have to go to them. The report that is written is only for the insurance company. There's very little, if any, follow-up on the car. And then if your car just shows up somewhere burnt or, wrecked, they'll tell you because it's impounded, but there's nobody investigating. There's nobody trying to find your car. Just like everybody I know has either had their house broken into or their neighbor's house has been broken into. So in my neighborhood, 3 houses right on my street that I can see from my front yard have been broken into. One has been broken into twice. When you call the police, they either don't come or it takes them over an hour to come, and they do nothing. There is no investigation. There is no attempt to catch anybody. In fact, one of the cars that was stolen, the person who stole it was so brazen, they took it to their own apartment building, and the police didn't want to do anything or arrest the person because they said they'll just let him out the next day. And I know we have a new district attorney coming in that says that that's going to change, but I'm just saying, like, Gavin Newsom and what he has done has allowed this to happen. I think that the people are going to vote another way and we're going to fix it, but it's not because of Gavin and his leadership, which is really disappointing because he tells us that crime isn't up to the degree that we're saying, but the police won't come. And if the police don't come, they're not writing a report. So your tracking of how much crime is up is flawed. With anything, the input is the output. Garbage in, garbage out. If we're not actually tracking crime and the police don't come, how can you say that it's not dramatically up? Your numbers don't make any sense. You have to give the police way more money than they're getting, way more training than they're getting, and we have to get to a point where the police are a part of the solution, not the enemy. So that part is mind-numbing. Like I said, if you have the ability, you can have your own security, but most people don't have that. Most people, like he's saying, the wage gap in California is pretty drastic, and there's a lot of people living at poverty levels. They just get taken advantage of and they're just victims. They don't have the ability to stand up for themselves. They don't have the ability to afford a lawyer or security. And it's chaos. It's complete chaos.
Business regulations, or when it comes to frivolous lawsuits, or when it comes to unemployment. Actually, we're now only second worst in the country when it comes to unemployment. So perhaps...
By the way, there's some recent stats that lean to the theory that the numbers of new jobs created in California have come mostly from the government, not from businesses, which is terrible. That's the worst outcome that we could have altogether.
His protective measures are aiming to get us back in the lead.
The other thing is nobody wants to hire people here in California. If you own a business in California, another tax, another layer of expenses, the idea that you pay more taxes for employees than anywhere else, but also the litigation attorneys that torture you with HR stuff. Like we had a scenario where somebody worked for us for a very brief time. They messed up a lot of stuff. They lied about who they were and what their qualifications were. And we let them go and even gave them a severance because, if we hire somebody and we make a bad hire, that's on us also. Like, we could have done a better job of interviewing. That person went and got an attorney, made up a bunch of stuff about us and sued us. And, I was saying to our attorney, I'm like, well, let's countersue them for all these lies. Well, you can't. There's nothing you can do to them. There's literally no consequences for an employee that sues somebody and lies. All of the burden is on the employer. And so basically what happened at the end of the day, to kind of summarize, is this person made up a bunch of lies. We had proof that they were lying. And we showed the proof that they were lying, and their attorney, instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry, my client is a fraud and made up a bunch of lies about you, said, well, it's going to cost you this much to go to arbitration, and you're going to spend this much in legal bills. So let's say you're going to spend $80,000. Give us $75,000 and we'll go away. And I said, but your client is lying. We've done nothing wrong. Yeah, but it's going to cost, if we go to arbitration, it's going to cost you $80,000. So give us $75,000 and we'll go away. And I'm like, I don't understand. Your client, you just saw evidence that your client is a liar. I think you already knew your client's crazy and a liar before this, but it's okay for predatory attorneys to create this added expense to do business in the state of California. And that's Gavin says he's pro-employee, but I'm pro-employee too. But you can't lie and you can't make stuff up. Like, if we legitimately did something wrong, then we deserve to make that right. But there should be consequences for people that lie, and there should be consequences for lawyers that make stuff up and know their clients are lying and still, basically blackmail people into having to pay. And I'll tell you, in that scenario, I would have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting them. There's just no way. It's wrong. Like, but everybody says, well, that's dumb business because of the time you're going to spend and the money. And it's like, I guess, but I just have a hard time paying somebody for something that is just complete buffoonery. It's just, defies everything that I stand for. And a lot of people, the reason why they move their businesses out of the state of California, or people have hiring freezes here, is because the HR laws here are so out of control and they make zero sense. There's no common sense, that you don't even know what's right or wrong or up or down, because you're always, just spending all this time and money on it that people give up. Let me explain what it's like having a business in the state of California. And somebody described it this way, and I think it's totally true, is it's like California has their hands around your throat and they're choking you just enough that you can breathe to stay alive, but you can't get away and you can't do anything. Like, you barely survive here with the taxes and the laws and the crime and the utter chaos and low morale. The other thing is, nobody wants to come here. So, we have a business where people come to our library for an experience. People from other parts of the country won't come here. They will not come here. And when they do come here, they can't believe that it's like a third world country. They don't understand how this is America, because it isn't like this in other places of the country. People are afraid to walk around in LA because people, can commit crimes unchecked. It's nuts.
Is he looking to protect our standing as the worst state in the country when it comes to an increase in wages? Wages have stagnated in California more than any state in the country. Or when it comes to restrictions on workers and the right to earn a living? Is he looking to make sure that California maintains its lead in gas prices, well above the price of gas in any of the other?
That's another funny thing is, people can't afford to live in Los Angeles. So a lot of people commute outside of town, and they might have a 30, 40 minute, maybe even an hour. And those are the people that are, they want to live the American dream. They want to own a house, but they have to go way outside of town to do that. And the way that we reward them is to raise gas prices on them. It affects them way more than it does anybody else. The other thing is, we're so confused about the environment and what we're trying to do. Gavin, wants more electric cars, but our grid can't sustain it. Like, literally, this is like Afghanistan in the summer here, where we have rolling blackouts. Our power just goes out. Like, it just goes out. We have to have batteries here in the building because we'll be filming and we lose everything. It just dies. And there's no warning, nothing. And so we want to put more burden on this power grid that is barely hanging together. There's no plan to fix that. Nobody's doing anything. We haven't done, I met a guy the other day that was coming in from, I think from Texas. We've got diesel plants or whatever back up, ones that were offline for power that aren't good for the environment, running. And, we say one thing, but we're doing something completely different. But it's odd in the United States of America that in the second largest city in the country and the fifth largest economy in the world, we can't figure out how to have power or good internet. The internet here goes down all the time too. It's insane.
49 states. Well, we know he's looking to do that because his own CARB board just passed regulations that are going to raise gas prices about 60 cents a gallon more. Is he looking to protect our standing as number 2 in the country in housing costs, number 2 in the country in water bills, number 3 in the country in energy and electricity costs, number 3 in the country in inequality, number 1 in the country when it comes to income taxes? Certainly wants to protect California's lead in that respect. Does he want to protect our number 1 in the country budget deficit that was reported last year, or our standing 3rd in the country in road disrepair?
That's the other thing. Like, if you just like add up the math and you think, okay, the largest state in the country with the most people with the highest taxes, and you can't balance the budget, and the cops are underpaid and underfunded, the schools are terrible, the roads are a complete disaster, the infrastructure's falling apart, and you're running at a deficit. It doesn't, like, all of your crazy ideas and the outcome of your actions is that the largest state with the largest economy in the country is running at a huge deficit, and you're running it into bankruptcy. There's no other place but the government that you would still have a job.
Or maybe it's the fact that California has the highest illiteracy rate in the entire country. Perhaps that's what the value that Governor Newsom is aiming to protect. Or relatedly, the fact that we are second out of the 50 states when it comes to educational inequity.
Yeah, there's a bunch of parts of this that are frustrating. Is one, Gavin ran on the idea that he was going to address this gap in education here. And I'm a, firm believer that the one thing that we owe kids in this country is that they should have a solid education. That's the American dream. The gap in what we do here in this state is insane. The average new teacher coming into the school system here makes $55,000 a year, which is way below the cost of living. So I think the menial cost of just getting by is like $62,000 or something like that. On top of that, they have over $105,000 in student loans on average. So just think about this. You have $105,000 in student loans. You come out, you have some of the worst schools in the country with the biggest class sizes, and you're paid $55,000 a year. It forces you to work 2 jobs, and they have to spend their own money on supplies. With all the talent and money that we have here in the state of California and the AI, we not only could have the best schools in the world, we could raise kids in every part of the state, from Compton to Brentwood. It could be even and fair across the board, that are patriotic, that have high self-esteem, and are prepared for anything that would come their way in this world. But we're just letting the thing that hasn't worked for a long time now just keep dying. Like, our schools haven't evolved, they haven't changed. And what Gavin did closing schools down during COVID will affect some of these kids for the rest of their life. It's criminal what has happened to these poor kids. And it came out, but we all kind of knew it, that the COVID stuff was buffoonery. It was complete buffoonery doing that. We here in the state of California messed that up about as good as you could. But we owe kids a fair education, and we've done nothing to evolve there. And the other part of this is this whole thing that he's talking about is Gavin is trying to Trump-proof California. What Gavin needs to do is he needs to make friends with Trump. He needs to make friends with Elon and everybody else. And he needs to, really accept the fact that all of these companies that are leaving, I think it's like 6 major corporations leave the state of California every month, are leaving for a reason. What he does is gaslight them and pick on them and say, oh, we're fine, we're creating jobs. We're not. It's not fine. It's terrible. Like, we should be collaborating with everybody and figuring out how to make things better for our kids, how to make our future better, how to fix our economy, not play politics. And it's either your way or the highway. Your way, Gavin, isn't working. It's not working at all.
If we were still in the COVID days, he'd certainly be looking to protect our national lead when it came to school shutdowns, business shutdowns, and COVID mandates. We know that he's looking to protect our national lead when it comes to illegal border crossings. For the first time in the 90s, over the last year, the highest level of illegal border crossings have been in the San Diego border sector, because he's stood by California's standing as a sanctuary state. When it comes to funding for illegal immigrants, surely he's looking to protect our lead there, as California is the only state in the country that's offering free Medicaid to those who are here unlawfully. And
that confuses me too, is like Gavin's priority is the sanctuary state and protecting people that are here illegally, with no regard for us that are here working really hard, trying to create jobs and make the place better. It lacks total common sense that you're prioritizing people that are here illegally versus the people that are already here and the businesses that are leaving the state. You don't care about that. And you're just trying to distract us. That's it. It's straight out of propaganda and Bernays' playbook, where you're trying to tell us how to think, but some of us can see the trees for the forest. Like, we have common sense, and none of this makes any sense. You got to prioritize the people that are doing the right thing, that are contributing in a positive way. And if you're here illegally, that's a completely different conversation, but that conversation should happen after you fix the stuff that's affecting the people that are here doing the thing that they should be doing.
Most certainly, we know the governor is looking to extend California's four-peat in leading the nation in one-way U-Haul rentals, and is looking through his protective special session, I'm sure, to make that.
Yeah, that's the job. Is there's so many U-Hauls leaving, they have to pay people to drive them back. Yeah, so the part of the I Am Leader book that really was targeted at Gavin and others like him is the part about locus of control. And the thing that Gavin could develop is he could have an internal locus of control. Instead of blaming outside forces for everything and deflecting, if he just went away for a while and really reorganized his thinking. And, in sports, you have winners and losers, and whoever scores the most points wins. In politics, you have winners and losers, but all of the dialogue is about keeping power and managing people's perceptions, even though right in front of us, we're losing the game. And he's trying to tell us that we're not losing the game. And what has to change is Gavin's got to be more realistic and stop lying to us and face the facts. Like, you can only get better by accepting responsibility for what's happened and then changing your behavior. And you have to develop an internal locus of control. You're not a leader, Gavin. You're a manager at best. That's it. You're a manager. You haven't led anybody anywhere. The people that are following you are going off the cliff. That's it. Like, I'm sorry. I was rooting for you. I've lived in this state for 25 years, and I'll just take, let's just go back really quick to your acceptance speech in 2018 and listen to what you say. None of this happened. None of it happened.
Tonight, America's biggest state is making the biggest statement in America. We're saying unmistakably and in unison that it's time to roll the credits on the politics of chaos and the politics of cruelty. Now is time for going far and going together. Now is the time for decency, for facts, for trust, and now is the time for truth. Now is time for leaders to lead. And to those agents of anger determined to divide us instead of unite us, it's time to pack it up and for you to pack it in. This, in every way, shape, or form, is California's moment. And to those who wonder whether polarization is permanent, who think today's big dreams are tomorrow's broken promises, who question whether a 40 million person melting pot of different faiths, different families and futures can live and prosper together, California is your answer.
I felt a lot of promise back then, but unfortunately, Gavin, you didn't live up to any of that. Maybe a couple of those things, but you've been a terrible leader and you've done a terrible job. And I really think that you should go away and reinvent yourself and come back somebody who's honest and somebody who doesn't attack everybody that doesn't agree with you. Because you're saying that in that speech, like that we're all going to work together. You didn't say we're all going to work together, but if you disagree with me, I'm going to villainize you. And you made the state worse. It's worse for the vulnerable. It's way worse. Our schools are worse. People are working harder, making less. And the gap, the amount of businesses that have either left or closed because of your policies and COVID and what you did it's unforgivable, really. Those are people's lives that work really hard. Just here in closing, this is a video I made this morning on my drive into work. So this is the homeless and the chaos on my drive in. This is the route I take every day. It's depressing. Pay attention to the fact that these Breaking Bad RVs with drugs and all the stuff that's going on are across from a high school, literally across from a high school. Just think about people that come here from the rest of the country and that's what they see. Like, it's scary, the chaos and what is allowed to happen here. And you spent $24 billion. And this is what it is going into 2025. This is what it looks like.